There's no way that you can tell that much truth without offending certain portions of the population. And so now you have to figure out how you're going to handle that. And at 5'5", I've always handled it fist first.
If you sign up for their program, you get a light-skinned, weird-faced wife that never do an interview. Listen, in 20 years won't do an interview. Nobody's ever talked to her, and that she's never been interviewed anywhere.
With Beyonce, you know, it's just a weird thing because I do love her so much, and I would never ever want to do anything to hurt her or her image because she's, you know, she's important to us. But it's just a weird thing right now. Like, I love Beyonce still. And then you have celebrities like a Jay-Z. And this is where I think the whole fallout with the Beyonce, she's just kind of in the crosshairs because of all of what's going on in the media with respect to Jay-Z.
There's no vindication for me because for 4 years I've been screaming, not just Diddy, but Diddy and Jay-Z are monsters. And the victim-making machine kept going on.
Long before 2024 ever stepped into the picture, Katt Williams had already planted something in the public's mind. In interview after interview, on stage and off, he kept warning that the entertainment industry was headed for a reckoning, a moment when long-protected power circles would finally start cracking. Back then, plenty of people brushed it off as classic Katt, bold, theatrical, maybe even trolling for shock value. But then reality started catching up, as headlines began, unfolding in real time. Those old clips didn't feel like jokes anymore, they felt prophetic. First, the explosive legal storm surrounding Diddy shifted the public's perception of figures once considered untouchable. And now, the spotlight seems to be inching toward Jay-Z, with some fans convinced Katt's so-called timeline is playing out step by step. Fueling the fire are online whispers, claiming Jay-Z and Beyoncé may have quietly left the United States for an undisclosed destination. There's been zero official confirmation. Still, that didn't stop the speculation from spreading like wildfire, because when the internet senses smoke, it assumes there's fire. At the center of the renewed chatter is resurfaced, reporting referencing an old FBI tip tied to the Epstein files where Jay-Z's name, alongside Pusha T and Harvey Weinstein, was reportedly mentioned. The coverage itself highlights uncertainty and hazy recollections, but once information hits social media, nuance rarely survives a trip. Within hours, timelines were overflowing, theories stacking on theories, videos dissecting every detail, creators connecting dots in every direction, some cautiously, others with absolutely no breaks.
If you take people like Jay-Z and Pusha T, they made their living killing our people, so how the gonna stand up for our people? You know what I'm saying? But we forget that because we love Jay-Z's music so much, we love Pusha's music so much, right? But you think they would ever, oh, Beyonce had the best fit for somebody else? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You think they would ever tell the truth? No, if they told the truth, they'd go to jail. You know what I'm saying? So you have liars. Liars are now the face of our culture.
Approximately 2006, Blank last recalled being by Epstein. Okay, so this is the first half and the section in which Jay-Z's name comes up. And while an allegation is an allegation is an allegation, what has me kind of skeptical here is the time frame in which Jay-Z is cropping up here. 1996, which is not the earliest point of his career, but early enough in terms of his studio album discography. He was barely having moved out of Marcy at that point, and his first record only sold like 43,000 copies. There's been a litany of debates going back and forth about like whether or not it would have been believable for Jay-Z to sort of have been in these kinds of circles way back in 1996, which I know the waters do get muddy a little bit because of how popular and massive Jay-Z is as a figure now. So as a result of that, it's kind of easy to almost like, you know, always imagine him in that frame.
As the speculation keeps building online, Jay-Z's loyal fan base hasn't stayed quiet. In fact, they've been just as loud, pushing back hard against what they believe is a narrative spiraling out of control. To them, this doesn't look like accountability. It feels like retroactive storytelling with key context missing. Their biggest point, timing and plausibility. Supporters stress that back in 1996, Jay-Z was still grinding, still laying the foundation of his career, nowhere near the global powerhouse status people associate with him today. From their perspective, it doesn't add up that he would have had the elite-level access or connections critics are now suggesting. They argue that people are taking today's influence and projecting it backward, rewriting history through a 2024 lens. Many fans are even drawing comparisons to last year's headline-grabbing Tony Busby-linked Jane Doe situation, a case that gained massive traction before ultimately falling apart under closer examination. To them, this feels eerily similar. Loose references, social media amplification, and guilt by association doing most of the heavy lifting in their eyes. It's less about evidence and more about momentum.
So we should believe that in 1996, Jay-Z, still without a record label, living in New York, was already hanging around with Harvey Weinstein. Sounds like BS, just like the last time. But some people are saying this is the time period that Jay-Z was chasing LL Cool J around in clubs in New York to battle him for clout, and we're supposed to believe he was connected to Weinstein and Epstein. They're saying Jay-Z was a rapper who was getting dissed by Tupac, all right? So look, they're saying that, look, Jay-Z can't have been that popular. He didn't have this sort of Harvey Weinstein, Jeffrey Epstein connections in 1996. It was too early. But then some people are arguing, wasn't he like 26 and already connected to the game? It's possible, in my opinion. Jay had connections by then. Reasonable doubt wasn't the start of his career. But then people are arguing and says if he was that connected, so much connected, he was close friends with Weinstein, who was already winning Oscars, why couldn't he even get signed by some label? If Jay-Z was so close with him, why didn't they use his firm to produce Streets is Watching? Why didn't they do anything together for 20 years, never appeared together when they were such close friends, according to his lady? But then we get to this. So there's been a lot of allegations that Jay-Z has dated girls young and all that kind of thing.
Even among his strongest defenders, one detail keeps circling back into the conversation: the timeline of Jay-Z and Beyoncé's relationship. According to widely shared accounts, Beyoncé was just 17 when Jay-Z first expressed interest, while he was already a grown man firmly planted in the industry. Their relationship would later evolve into one of the most iconic partnerships in music history. But that early age gap, it's no longer sitting quietly in the background. For years, it was treated like a footnote, acknowledged and then quickly moved past. Now, in a climate where audiences are far more sensitive to power dynamics and industry hierarchies, that the same detail is being re-examined under a harsher light. What once seemed like trivia is suddenly being framed as context. Some fans who never thought twice about it are now revisiting old interviews, combing through lyrics, replaying public moments, trying to balance long-held admiration with a growing sense of unease.
Tell me about your audition with Jay-Z. Tell me what he said to you.
A really good audition.
And what did he say to you? He said something to you.
Oh yes, he said, we don't sing songs here, we sing artists. And there was this little pause, and I was nervous. But then he said, and we're interested. And there was this sudden feel of relief.
But then he said something about a window and a door or something.
Oh, then he said, he did it homework.
I did a lot of homework on you, Miss Lady.
He said, there are two ways to leave here, either through the door with the deal sign or through this window, and we're on the 29th floor.
So you was like, where's the pen? Where's the paper? I'm signing.
Yeah.
And
the audience is so uncomfortable. Like, I don't know if Tyra was trying to get that on the record, but my God, what Jaguar? He threatened her. This is her own words coming out of her mouth, and she was a kid at that time, correct?
15-year-old girl who had been flown to the United States without parental supervision or a chaperone, brought to a grown man's office in a large corporate Manhattan building. Everybody knew when she flew in. I was there the day she got signed. Everyone was talking about it. And the 6 hours that she spent with him, and the 4 hours that she spent alone with him with no parental supervision. Her father didn't show up till the next day to come and collect the check.
Well, and there's
this is her life.
The rumors were even beyond that, right? That Jay-Z was cheating on Beyonce with her when she was 17, is what a lot of this came out through a publicist who later then
had
to
spoken
apologize.
To my friend Jonathan? Hey, you should talk to Jonathan.
Please.
Because Jonathan was there. He was right there working with Rihanna. And it was right when they started crafting her to be seen as a brand and commodity only and not a person. And when I talk to Jonathan now, just to hear him when he thinks of his teenage daughters, he was like, Rihanna was the same age my girls are now. I couldn't imagine putting my daughters through what we put her through. And then the next thing you know, she was removed from that first team from Palm the Replay and replaced with all new handlers and kept sheltered in Los Angeles, where she was going out to parties and partying at 15, 16, 17 years old, hanging out at the Rainbow Room, hanging out. Yeah, like it was one of my friends who found out she was 17 when everyone thought she was 21. And he was like, yo, why do y'all got me carrying this girl around? And she's, oh, it's cool, it's cool.
Well, but just to echo and support you, like they had to debunk that. Oh, we apologize. It wasn't real. We made it up in hopes of giving her single a boost.
Yeah, they
like,
promised
what?
Jonathan a deal working at Tidal and something, and then they reneged. And then the next thing you know, he was caught in a home invasion robbery while he was working on the Drake secret baby mama story.
Jeez.
Sophie. He was duct taped him and his daughter, and he was pow whipped in front of his child. So, you know, there's a lot that goes on in the backdrop. And I know the PTSD. I know what it's like to be in a trunk, you know.
Speaking of PTSD, you made a comment about this. Like, this was from the Super Bowl appearance more recently. This bothered you, seeing her put the Rockefeller logo out there.
If you
what was
go
your
back
instinct to that?
and watch, it was almost as if she didn't want to put her hands up, and then she looked over where Jay-Z's box was, and then you just see her hands. She look at her. She's looking at his box. She didn't want to do it. She didn't even want to do that gig.
As the conversation widened, another name inevitably resurfaced. Aaliyah Legacy has always carried a mix of deep admiration and lingering questions. But lately, she's been pulled back into the spotlight not because of new facts, but because old photos and archived interviews are making the rounds again. Images of a young Aaliyah standing beside Jay-Z have circulated heavily, reigniting talk about his reported interest in her during a period when she was already entangled in the R. Kelly situation. Viewed through today's lens especially, after everything that's come to light about industry power structures, those moments are being interpreted very differently. What once looked like ordinary industry networking now feels, to some, more complicated. Even more controversially, certain online spaces have revived long-running theories suggesting Aaliyah's death wasn't merely a tragic accident. There's no verified evidence backing those claims, and they remain highly speculative. Still, they continue to spread, fueled by the emotional weight of her story, and the painful fact that her loss never fully found closure. And that's the bigger pattern here. When clarity is missing, speculation rushes in to take its place.
You wanna know what's really up? She was unconscious. She didn't choose to get on that plane. There were phone calls made. There are witnesses who signed NDAs. Why would you need to sign a non-disclosure agreement about a plane crash and what happened leading up to it?
Twin-engine Cessna was headed for Florida when it crashed Saturday on Abaco Island, 100 miles north of Nassau, killing popular R&B singer Aaliyah and 8 others. Investigators now say from witness statements an engine may have failed and that the plane may have been overloaded.
Why the would you need to sign a don't ask about a plane crash if it was accidental? Riddle me that. Riddle me that. A plane crash should be accidental.
Should be.
Why would any testimony about what happened leading up to it need to be covered under a non-disclosure agreement if there wasn't foul play?
Stricken parents, her aunt Gladys Knight, Aaliyah's boyfriend Damon Dash, fellow hip-hop honcho Sean Puffy Combs, R&B singers Usher, Maya, and Monica, hip-hop artists Jay-Z, Busta Rhymes, Lil' Kim, Missy, even former heavyweight champ Mike Tyson. As Aaliyah's casket was moved from the famed Frankie Campbell Funeral Chapel, her heartbroken mother, Diane Houghton, gently acknowledged the crowd of mourners.
He was after Beyonce when she was before 18, correct? I mean, as we go through the timeline, they claim, oh no, I met him at 18 and then we waited till I was 19, but they knew each other when she was like 15, 16, correct? He clearly had eyes, and it's not the only one, right? There's Aaliyah as well. I was looking at these photos. There's a history
of this,
right?
Definitely. A lot of people don't realize the timeline, but after everything went bad with Robert Kelly, and he had to divorce Aaliyah, Jay-Z was interested while she was still underage. And as she started spending more time in New York, he was very, very, very right there. She didn't want that. She didn't want that with him. And if there's one thing I can tell you about Sean Carter, being embarrassed and being rejected are things he does not handle well. You know, a lot of people say, oh, you're crazy. He didn't do anything to Big L. He didn't do anything to Lamont Coleman. But I think people tend to forget, if Dame had successfully signed Lamont to Rockefeller, we wouldn't even know about Reasonable Doubt. It would have stayed a cult classic, probably sold 750,000. If Lamont Coleman had signed to Rockefeller, he would have been the star. He's always removed anything that can make him look as average as he is. I don't know how many times they used to tell the story, oh, he has a photographic memory. He remembers all of his lyrics, yet he's always had a teleprompter in the floor at his shows. That's why he would always sit down and look down at his, look like he was looking at his shoes. No, he was reading the lyrics. He is a magician. Everything you see about him is an illusion. But what he loves most is controlling youth.
Well, that was something Nas said way back, saying, yeah, he was indulging with these back with R. Kelly.
And I wish I hadn't signed paperwork. And I wish I hadn't taken money. I wish.
Well, there's a lot of it you can't say.
But I know everybody else that didn't. I spent my time collecting these people. And they will have their day, and we will all get justice.
As serious conversations unfolded, the internet did what it always does. It turned controversy into content. Memes replaced nuanced. Headlines became punchlines. And suddenly, names like 50 Cent, Rihanna, and Nicki Minaj were pulled into the whirlwind, whether they meant to be or not, in the age of viral reactions in digital courtrooms. Speculation moves faster than facts. And when the noise gets loud enough, it becomes harder to separate what's proven from what's projected. So, the real question is, are we witnessing accountability or amplification? As this story continues to evolve, we'll keep watching.